Part 1. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 1. Suwon is dead. As soon as she opened her eyes, she came to life again. Suwon looked at the thin, white arms and legs, which could break if she bent them hard. No, wasn't she reincarnated as a baby? Why is he the same height as a 15 or 16-year-old? Suwon turned her head in confusion, a strange memory came flooding back to her, and she was completely confused. She traveled into a book called Hegemony and became the vicious cannon fodder heroine Suwon. Suwon was the eldest daughter of the Ho family. Her mother passed away shortly after giving birth to her. When she was 15 years old, her father married her late husband Bai Yueguang into the house as his stepdaughter. He treated his stepdaughter as his own daughter and asked Suwon to give in to her stepsister in everything. Let him give up his marriage. Suwon's fiancé is the prince. A few days before they got married, her father said to her, "Wan, you grew up in fine clothing and fine food, and you have never suffered at all. Your sister is different. Her biological father is a poor scholar who grew up in the countryside. Suffered a lot. Your sister has a fiancé who is a scholar. She has managed to live a good life now, but if she remarries, she will continue to live a hard life. Dad thought about it and decided to let your sister marry the prince and you marry the scholar. You are my father's biological daughter. If you let a scholar marry into our family, no one can gossip about you." Suwon naturally refused and caused a huge quarrel. In the end, she was tied up by her father and thrown into a sedan chair to marry the poor scholar Gu Huizi. Stepsister Shili Hongzhuang married into the East Palace. Suwon felt resentful in her heart, hated her father's injustice, hated the Gu family for agreeing to this marriage and marrying her. In particular, the Gu family is very poor. Not to mention that Gu Huizi is a sick young man, his widowed mother is from far away, and his twin brother and sister are only 7 or 8 years old. The whole family is a mess. Suwon couldn't bear it and collapsed completely. She believed that the Gu family and her stepmother were a group, so she poisoned Gu Hui's bowl and sold her younger brother and sister to Ren Yazi in exchange for the money back to the capital, hoping to get back everything that belonged to her. It's a pity that the prince is the male protagonist of this book, and the stepsister is the female protagonist. How can Suwon, a cannon fodder female supporting character, survive? The protagonist's aura kills her instantly. What's more, Ren Yazi sold the Gu family's younger siblings to a brothel, where they were tortured to death. Gu's mother was so stimulated that she died of illness. Gu Huizi turned into a villain. Suwon was retaliated by Gu Huizi and died a particularly tragic death. Suwon struggled to digest the fact that she had read the book in the bathroom. She could only remember roughly the contents of the toilet book. In my previous life, my grandfather opened a martial arts gym, and my grandfather opened a traditional Chinese medicine clinic. Suwon learned kung fu from her grandfather, and then learned superb medical skills from her grandfather. I took the college entrance examination and entered medical school, studying Western medicine. She combined Chinese and Western medicine and saved countless lives, but eventually died in a car accident. Did God think her death was too easy and let her die vigorously in the book? How many sins has she committed? Huizi, it's time to drink medicine. Gu's mother's voice sounded outside. Suwon was startled and suddenly remembered that the original owner had poisoned Gu Hui's bowl at this time. No drinking, Suwon opened the door suddenly and rushed out. When she saw Gu Huizi holding the bowl to her lips, her pupils tightened and she rushed over and knocked the bowl over in his hand. Clang! The bowl hit the ground and broke into pieces. Suwon's little heart was beating violently, and when she saw the medicinal soup spilled on the floor, she let out a long breath. "Stand up!" A sinister and angry voice sounded above the head. Suwon realized later that she was lying on Gu Huizi's lap. Before she could get up, a strong force pushed her away. She followed this momentum and turned around, standing firmly and looking into the man's dark, cold, and impatient eyes. The author has something to say. Little darlings, the baby has started a new article. If you like it, please support a duck Twitter. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 2. Gu Huizi had clear brow bones, a thin chin, and a pair of vicious eyes that looked cold and gloomy. Suwan swallowed her saliva, feeling like he wanted to strangle her to death. In fact, Gu Huizi's appearance was very good, probably because he was weak and pale, and his whole person had a gloomy air. Especially these eyes were particularly beautiful, if they were not so cold, not so fierce, or even not so disgustingly staring at her. The medicine you took is moldy. It won't cure your disease. It's also poisonous. Suwan thought to herself that she wouldn't harm him, and she wouldn't sell him a pair of siblings. What was she afraid of him doing? If they really wanted to fight, Gu Huizi, a sick man, might not be able to beat her. Suddenly she realized that the original owner could not speak so nicely. She was afraid of revealing her secret. Gu Huizi noticed that she had changed her mind. She imitated the original owner's tone and sneered, "Although you don't look like a longevity person, but try to live as long as possible, I don't want to be widowed at a young age." Suwan suddenly felt heartbroken when she thought that Gu Huizi had lived longer than her in the book. The veins on Gu Huizi's forehead twitched. He pursed his thin lips tightly and glanced at the medicinal soup on the ground. "What are you looking at? Isn't it just that you spilled the medicine?" Suwan followed the original owner's demeanor, glanced at Gu Hui with disdain, and said condescendingly, "At worst, I will buy some good medicine to compensate you." The corners of Gu Huizi's lips moved, revealing a touch of sarcasm. As if to say she was bragging. Suwan was aroused by an unknown fire. She dug into her sleeves and prepared to take out a handful of money and throw it at Gu Huizi's face. The two sleeves were shriveled, not to mention a handful of silver, not even a copper plate. Later, she realized that when she married into the Gu family, she didn't even have a dowry of a copper coin. Suwan was embarrassed and wanted to crawl in through all the cracks in the ground. Gu's mother brought a broom and a dustpan from the kitchen to clean up the broken bowls, and advised Gu Huizi, "Okay, what's the big deal? Isn't it just a bowl of medicine? Wanwan didn't do it on purpose, I'm afraid you'll have a bad stomach." Suwan was stunned. Gu's mother was the best in the book and was famous for being fierce. He has a round waist and thick arms, and his old face is covered with deep lines, which makes him look very untouchable. She was clearly only in her 40s, with grey hair, like an old lady in her 50s or 60s. Gu's mother was very defensive, and was very kind to the original owner in the book. She would rather starve her children than feed the original owner. However, the original owner did not appreciate it and thought that Gu's mother was trying to curry favor with her and wanted to climb the high branches of the home mansion. "Wanwan, don't pay attention to him. If he makes you look bad, just give him a good beating. Men don't tolerate bad behavior." Gu's mother gave Suwan a kind smile. Facing the kind mother Gu, Suwan was at a loss as to what to do, feeling guilty and embarrassed. Gu Hui had a cold face, coughed a few times, stood up, and prepared to go back to the house. "Mother! Mother! Renyazi is here. He wants to arrest my sister and me." The second child, Gu Jingyun, ran into the house with a sallow and thin face full of panic. The third child, Gu Beizu, held the corner of Gu's mother's clothes with her hands, and her voice trembled, "Mom, Renyazi is chasing us, what should we do?" "What are you afraid of? Mom is protecting you." Mother Gu hugged the two cubs behind her and was about to go out. "Suwan, get out of here quickly and collect my deposit. The two children haven't been sent to my place today." "What? Did you cheat and deceive me, Renyazi's shout came from the door. He threatened, if you don't hand over the child today, don't blame me for turning against you. Everyone in the room stared at Suwon. Suwon was confused. When did she receive the deposit? She suddenly remembered that the original owner had no money, so he first collected a deposit, bought arsenic to poison Gu Huizi, and agreed to give the 2 children to Renyazi today. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 3. Using the money from selling someone's brother and sister to buy medicine and poison them to death, only the original owner can do such an immoral thing. Suwon, get out. Renyazi waited impatiently and banged on the courtyard door hard. Suwon had a cold face and prepared to go out. Don't go. Mother Gu came back to her senses and glanced at Suwon's little arms and legs. I'm going. She lowered her face, picked up the hoe behind the door panel, raised her eyebrows and said, you dare to accuse me? Give them some color and see, they don't know that Lord Ma has 3 eyes. They are here to find me, let me go. Suwon occupied the original owner's body, so he should fill the hole for her. Although she inherited a lot of mess, it is better to die than to live. After all, she got a big advantage. Suwon took the hoe from Gu's mother and said, don't interfere in this matter. Mother Gu saw that Suwon's arms were not as thick as a hoe pole. Could she swing it? She chased after him impatiently. Gu Huizi looked gloomy, coughed a few times, and walked out. Gu Jingyun and Gu Beizu bravely leaned on the door frame and 2 heads popped out, staring at the door with their big black eyes. Suwon held a hoe and looked at the big men in front of her with cold eyes. Suwon, are you kidding me? The leader, Lu Laoliu, had a sinister expression on his face and stared at Suwon's face. She is truly stunning in the world, with a kind of romantic charm carefully cultivated by a noble lady in the capital. She has a slender waist and long legs, tall and bright, and her ebony-like hair sets off her bright eyebrows. When she looked at people, her eyes and eyebrows were raised, cold and proud. With such a pretty face, just a lick of your fingers will attract men to her. If you don't hand over the child today, you will pay the debt yourself. Lu Laoliu rubbed the corner of his mouth with his thumb, feeling that it would be a waste for such a beauty to marry a sick man like Gu Huizi. I will take it back today and taste it thoroughly before selling it to the kill. Suwon's eyes turned cold, and she kicked him in the stomach, hitting Lu Laoliu's face with the hoe in her hand. Lu Laoliu screamed and covered his bleeding nose. His neck hurt and he fell to the ground hard after being hit with a hoe. If you dare to look at me like that again, be careful of your dog eyes. The hoe in Suwon's hand fell 3 inches below his navel. Lu Laoliu howled in pain. Suwon sneered, don't think that I don't know what your plan is. You tricked me into selling my 2 children as servants to a wealthy family, and you secretly planned to sell them into a brothel. No, 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 I didn't. Lu Laoliu's face was ferocious, and he broke out in cold sweat. The most vulnerable descendant, Jen, suffered a heavy blow, almost losing half of his life. After regaining his composure, he growled at the people traveling with him, are you dead? Come and save me. Several people's scalps were numb. Suwon looked at the thin arms and legs. Those few movements were unambiguous. Lu Laoliu's scream alone made their lower bodies feel cold and they tightened their buttocks. A pair of glances, emboldening each other, their brothers would not be able to defeat even a bitch. Suwon raised her red lips and glanced sideways. Several people felt chills in their hearts and retreated under Suwon's gaze. Cover your descendants' roots and reason with Suwon. Mrsku, how can you refuse to pay? It was you who came to us to sell the child. You have already accepted the money, but you will refuse to give it to us and even hurt our boss. How can this be reasonable? If you have something to say, let's talk it over. Don't move your hands or feet if you disagree with someone. I won't sell it anymore. Suwon saw that he had killed a chicken to scare the monkeys and frightened a few of them, so he sneered, I have a bad temper. I like to do things but not talk. Suwon let go of the hoe and used her skill to kick Lu Laoliu away with a tricky kick. He hit the wall and fell to the ground. Lu Laoliu's bones were broken, and he almost couldn't breathe. He lay on the ground unable to move. Several people's facial muscles twitched, they swallowed hard, and said in unison, we don't buy it. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 4. Suwon, shall I pay off the debt? No, no, no. Several people waved their hands together. Who would have thought that such a delicate and gentle woman could be so cruel and ruthless? How dare you use her to pay off your debt? Lifting up Lu Laoliu, several people ran away in despair. Huh? You don't want the deposit? Suwon chased after him. Several people seemed to have seen ghosts, running faster than rabbits, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Suwon snorted, you're a loser. Clap your hands and turn around. Mother Gu's jaw dropped and she looked at her in astonishment. Gu Jingyun and Gu Beizu's mouths were wide enough to stuff eggs. Gu Huizi's face was calm, his slender figure was leaning against the doorframe, his appearance was calm, and he showed no emotion. Upon closer inspection, the corners of his eyes were sharp, as if he wanted to dig out her soul and see through her. Suwon brushed the broken hair from his forehead and smiled at them. My grandfather was a general before he passed away. I learned a few tricks from him when I was a child, and they have never been abandoned. Anyway, she had only been married into the Gu family for a month, and she had refused to communicate with the Gu family. They knew nothing except that she was Suwon, the eldest daughter of the Ho family, and just let her talk nonsense. Gu's mother came back to her senses and looked at Suwon with strange eyes. She is a pampered rich lady, and it is really wronging her to marry into the Gu family. When Gu's mother was the daughter-in-law, she was criticized and made things difficult by her mother-in-law. She swore in her heart that from now on, as a mother-in-law, she would love her daughter-in-law until death. No matter how mischievous Suwon was, Gu's mother could turn one eye or close one. The matter of selling children is no small matter. Come in. Mother Gu pulled the two children into the house. Gu Huizi's dark pupils showed a cold edge. He gave her a stern look, as if he was settling accounts after the fall, and returned to the house with a cold face. Suwon curled her lips and followed him to the main room. Several people sat down around a table. The atmosphere in the room was solemn. Mother Gu asked with a straight face, Wan, do you want to sell Erlang and Sanya? Yes, Suwon admitted simply. She didn't like lying. Afraid of hurting Gu's mother, he added, I couldn't accept the gap before, but I made a fuss and let down your sincerity. Gu's mother treated the original owner as her daughter and loved her. Suwon couldn't bear to lie to her about the bastard things the original owner had done. She had just arrived in a strange era and didn't know what was going on outside. Staying in the Gu family to find out was the best choice at the moment. After all, the Ho mansion was afraid that she would make trouble when she returned to the capital, so they would definitely send people to keep an eye on her. She obeyed whatever Gu's mother wanted to do, and she had no shame staying in the Gu family. In this life, she prevented Gu Huizi from drinking poison and did not sell Gu Jingyun and Gu Beizu. Gu's mother would not die, and Gu Huizi would not turn evil and take her life. As long as she stays away from the male and female protagonists in the book, she can live happily anywhere she wants. Mom, my sister-in-law didn't want to sell me, and my second brother Gu Beizu sat next to Gu's mother, holding her sleeves with her thin hands and tugging gently. Our family is too poor to open the pot, and my eldest brother is even more seriously ill. I begged my sister-in-law to sell me to a wealthy family as a maid in exchange for money to buy medicine for my elder brother. I can still receive monthly money to support my family. Gu Beizu liked this beautiful sister-in-law very much and wanted to get close to her, but the sister-in-law didn't like them. Hearing that her elder sister-in-law wanted to sell her and her second brother, Gu Beizu felt very sad and aggrieved. Later, the sister-in-law said she would not sell them, so she beat the man away and smiled at them. It was the first time Gu Beizu saw her sister-in-law smile, and it was more beautiful than she thought. "Mom, I begged my sister-in-law, don't blame her." Gu Beizu didn't want her eldest sister-in-law to leave, the wife that her eldest brother had finally married. "My sister-in-law now knows that my mother is good to her. If they try to be good to her in the future, she will definitely get better, right?" The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 5. Real. Gu's mother took a look at Suwan. Her eyes were very beautiful, as clean and pure as water, without the previous disgust or resentment. They were very peaceful and made people feel comfortable looking at them. Gu Beizu nodded vigorously, "Really?" Gu Jingyun pursed his thin lips tightly and stared at Gu Beizu unhappily, not understanding why she wanted to protect Suwan. This woman was so bad. She ate all the food by herself, leaving her and her eldest brother hungry. Gu Beizu's dark eyes were half filled with tears, and she grabbed his arm with her fingers, begging Gu Jingyun not to expose her. Gu Jingyun couldn't see her pitiful look the most. His eyebrows were twisted into two caterpillars, and he pulled her hand away impatiently. Compromised. Gu's mother believed it. Eyes can't deceive people. With such clean eyes, Suwan must not have a bad heart. Gu Beizu has always been very well behaved and will not lie to others. Her face softened and she said heartily, "Wan Wan, you are the eldest daughter of a wealthy family. When you marry into our family, you have the luxury of having a full meal. I found a part-time job in the town and went home to give you a meal at night. I'll wash your clothes and do some sewing and mending. I'll feed you and give you meat once every 5 days. The country people are poor and cannot afford to eat more than a few meals of meat throughout the year." Suwan's heart felt heavy, as if she had been hit hard, sore and soft. In her previous life, she lost her parents when she was too young to remember. They were geologists and died in a flash flood. I grew up with my grandfather and grandpa. At Mother Gu's place, she felt the warmth of maternal love. We, as a family, work together and we will get better and better in the days to come. Gu's mother's eyes were filled with tears. Since the man died, she had no one to rely on, so she became very strong so that she would not be bullied. The second and third babies were still in the belly, but the father was gone. No matter how hard or tiring it was, she gritted her teeth and got through it. The younger generation was not having a good life, and she felt as if her heart had been torn out. "If you are willing to live a down-to-earth life with us, our whole family will be kind to you." Mother Gu dropped these words, took out a money bag from her sleeve, stuffed it into Suwan's hand, and wrapped it around her palm. "You will take care of this house. Don't let what happened today happen again." Gu's mother stood up and walked out. "I'm going to kill the pigs." Gu Jingyun secretly wiped his wet eyes, sullen face, and ran away with Gu's mother. Gu Beizu's eyes were red like rabbit eyes, and she whispered, "Sister-in-law, my second brother and I will eat less and work more to earn money. When we grow up, we will give you whatever life you used to have at home." What a life! People in Xinghua village called her and her second brother sluggish people. They are not. When my sister-in-law sees how good they are, she will definitely not sell them. Even if Suwan had a heart of stone, he would be completely soft in their heartfelt words. The money bag in her hand was as heavy as 1,000 pounds, burning her. Suwan raised her hand and touched Gu Beizu's head. There was a pink scar on her forehead, which was as big as the thumbnail. During the wedding, Gu Beizu asked the original owner to get up, and was hit by the original owner with a bamboo tube. Children from poor families have long been the head of the family. When the original owner married into the Gu family, the little girl regarded her as one of her own. All good guys like it. No matter how much it hurts the little girl's heart, if he shows a little kindness, he will treat her heart and soul next time. Are you stupid? If you don't eat enough, how can you grow up and make money for me? Suwon dug into her sleeves, took out a handkerchief, and wiped the little girl's face. Little cat, hurry up, go wash your face. Gu Beizu's face instantly turned red, she covered her face with a handkerchief, and ran away shyly. Only Gu Huizi and Suwon were left in the room. The smile on Suwon's face faded. Suwon, don't use your dissatisfaction to hurt innocent people. Gu Huizi took out a release letter and pushed it in front of her. No one in the Gu family will be sorry for you. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 6. Suwon lived to be 24 years old, was single, and never fell in love once. This body is 16 years old and married young. I wish Gu Huizi would divorce her. But she has a really bad character. Trouble, but still soft-hearted. Gu Huizi asked her to leave, but Suwon refused to leave. Especially the little girl pitifully said to her, "Sister-in-law, my second brother and I will eat less and work more to earn money. When we grow up, we will give you the life you used to live at home." Suwon lowered her eyes and stared at the grey money bag in her hand. The mouth of the bag was worn white and had a patch on it. The original owner did many ridiculous things, but Gu's mother was willing to believe her for once and give her the family. For family harmony. Suwon couldn't walk away freely. Besides, she is penniless now, so staying is her best choice. After getting familiar with the situation in Chu State and earning some money, she helped Gu Huizi cure his illness, thus repaying the Gu family's debt. In the days to come, the sky will be high enough for birds to fly, and the sea will be wide enough for fish to jump. Suwon immediately made up her mind. Now that you want to divorce me, why did you go there so early? You have the ability not to let the sedan enter in the first place. Suwon pointed at the wife's book with her slender fingers, and there was ridicule in her clear eyes. I didn't hear that. Is it easier to ask for a Buddha than to give him a gift? Gu Huizi's eyes sank. In this semi-dark room, it was even darker than the bottom, and he stared at Suwon with sharp eyes. She was extremely at ease, glanced at the book for her wife carelessly, folded it neatly, and stuffed it into her sleeves along with the money bag. Suwon raised her head, her eyes were clear and translucent, and when she met Gu Huizi's dark and cold eyes, the man's tight thin lips showed extreme indifference, and there was a hint of deep anger. Because of her ignorance? Or is it because of her arrogance? Suwon looked disdainful and sneered coldly, "You don't want me, the legitimate daughter of the Marquis mansion, just because you said you don't want her? If you give up on this idea, I will only get tired of you and kick you out." The veins on Gu Huizi's forehead throbbed, his jaw was tense, and he clenched it into a fist with restraint, and the green veins on the back of his hand were hideous. His marriage to Su Mingxiu was decided when his father was still alive. Half a year ago, the home mansion sent someone to set a wedding date, and her mother begged him to fulfill her father's last wish. When the wedding ceremony was held, she picked up the red hijab and discovered that Suwon's mouth was gagged and her hands were tied. After taking out the ball of cloth from her mouth, I realized that someone had changed. She was the concubine of the home mansion, not his original fiancé Su Mingxiu. Gu Huizi was ready to send the person back and break off the engagement. Gu's mother stopped him, "Son, you worshipped heaven and earth and sent people back. How do you expect this innocent girl to live? She is also a miserable person. She lost her mother when she was a child. When the stepmother comes in, she will, after marrying her stepfather, she will come to our house to endure hardships, while Sumigzu will marry a noble man and enjoy the blessings. How can Suwon have a good life when she returns to the home mansion? If you lift the red hijab, you have to be responsible for her. Gu Huizi respected his mother very much, and under Gu's mother's persuasion, he temporarily compromised. Unexpectedly, what he left behind was a disaster. Gu Huizi's cold eyes fell on her face, and his voice was as cold as a knife's edge as he warned, "Suwon, if you touch a hair of the Gu family again, I won't spare you." Suwon met his eyes, which were as cold as the ice of the abyss, and the violent aura that burst out made people tremble. Suwon was not afraid of him, but she knew that this man was serious and his tolerance had reached the breaking point. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 7. Gu Huizi's face was sickly pale, and his aura was extremely frightening. He didn't look like an ordinary farmer at all. The aura of nobility emanating from his bones was more like that of a noble family carefully cultivated by a high-ranking family. "Son." He stopped looking at Suwon, stood up smoothly, and returned to the house. Suwon looked at Gu Huizi's back. He was slim and slender, with sharp bones and an aura that seemed to be sharp. In her past and present lives, this man was the most outstanding person she had ever seen. The facial features are extremely beautiful, and the eyebrows are flawless. A beauty worthy of a prosperous age. She couldn't help but sigh. If she wasn't afraid of ruining her character, she would have wanted to pluck this prickly flower from the high mountains. Suwon looked around the Gu family. There were 3 terraced houses with earthen walls. The main room only had a square table and 4 benches. There were 2 bamboo chairs and 2 low benches in the corner. Several baskets were stacked on top of each other, and there was only one. There were only bamboo baskets and farm tools, and no other furniture. Returning to his own house, this is the best room in the Gu family. The windows face the sun and the narrow room is clean and bright. A wooden bed, a wooden box under the window, and no other furniture. It was very simple. The ancestors of the Gu family were landlords in Xinghua village and were very wealthy for a while. Until Grandpa Gu Huizi's generation, his grandfather devoted himself to studying. Unfortunately, he lacked luck and a little talent in studying. He only passed the exam and was a child. The family business was not well managed. Began to decline. When the family business was passed down to Gu Huizi's father, it completely declined. He didn't even keep the old house, so he moved to these dilapidated houses. Gu's father made a living by hunting to support his family and provide for Gu Huizi's education. He lived a comfortable life. When Gu Huizi was 11 years old, his father went hunting in the mountains and never came back. Gu's mother, pregnant with her belly, went up the mountain with Gu Huizi to search, and found a piece of blood-stained clothing and a shoe of Gu's father. They concluded that they were eaten by wild beasts, and no remains were left behind. Because the Gu family used to be landlords, they have always been ostracized by the villagers, especially Gu's mother who raised the 3 older children by herself. Gu Huizi was in poor health and was even bullied. Gu's mother, who was capable and kind-hearted at that time, was forced to become an evil woman from all over the country. Cough cough, cough, cough cough. Gu Huizi's heartbreaking cough reached Suwon's ears through the wall. Suwon was a little bit jealous of his talent. Gu Hui was a genius with amazing talent and brilliance. When he was 10 years old, he was admitted as a scholar and ranked first. Was named the first child prodigy. It's a pity that Gu's father passed away and he fell seriously ill for some unknown reason. Since then, he has been in poor health. When he took the provincial examination, the environment was too bad. He fell ill and fainted within 2 days. Gu's mother was so scared that he was not allowed to take the imperial examination again. The top priority is to cure Gu Huizi and earn enough money. Suwon touched her chin. Can you do what you are doing? It was still early, so Suwon went up the mountain carrying a bamboo basket. Xinghua village is surrounded by mountains and rivers, with beautiful mountains and clear waters. The villagers dig food in the fields, occasionally go to the mountains to collect delicacies or go down to the rivers to fish, in exchange for money to support their families. In her previous life, Suwon often went to the mountains to collect medicines and had rich experience in the field. She was surprised to find many wild medicinal materials in the mountains. She collected some of them and put them in bamboo baskets. When she went back, she took the opportunity to take Gu Huizi's pulse and prepared some medicine for him to eat. A few Ganoderma lucidums were picked from the dead tree. Suwon squatted beside her and counted them. There were actually 8 or 9 Ganoderma lucidum growing on this tree. Others had been picked away, leaving only the 3 in her hand. I guess it didn't grow before. Suwon happily put it into the bamboo basket. Suddenly, my eyes lit up. There was actually a patch of Gallinobacteria growing under the slope. Delicious chicken fungus. Suwon licked her lips, took off the bamboo basket excitedly, and put everything into the bamboo basket. After holding her hand for a moment, Suwon realized something was wrong. She stared at the hand under the cockroach, and her heart started to beat loudly. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 8. This hand is wide and slender, the hand of a man. Suwon picked up a dead branch and pulled away the weeds that were almost as high as an adult's knees. A handsome man's face was revealed, with honey-colored skin and sharp angular face lines. He was a tough guy. Suwon tested his breath with her fingers. Live. She glanced over his body and saw a wound on his right arm. The flesh was open and the blood was dark red. This is not a fatal injury. She turned the person sideways, and there was a stab wound with a sharp weapon on the shoulder blade of her back. You should not die if you meet me in this deep mountain and old forest. Suwon laid the man down on the ground, took out a sickle from the bamboo basket, and cut his clothes from the wound. She tore a cut and the wound was completely exposed. Artemisia annua has anti-inflammatory, hemostatic, heat-clearing, and detoxifying effects, so I happened to pick it up in a bamboo basket. Suwon cleaned the wound a little, rubbed the young leaves of Artemisia annua into the palm of his hand to get the dark black juice, and applied it to his wound to stop the bleeding. The sickle tore his robe into long strips and tied up the wound on his back. Treat the injury on the right arm the same way. Suwon worked for a while and exhaled a breath. She wiped the sweat from her forehead with her hand, picked up one of the man's arms and began to feel his pulse. His eyes paused and fell on his calloused palms, especially the thick calluses on the tiger's mouth. Is this the result of holding a sword frequently? This man has the smell of blood that has been honed from a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. His body is full of strong muscles. I guess he is a soldier? Suwon originally wanted to throw the man into the mountains, but because he might be a soldier protecting his family and country, he dragged him down the mountain. Her body was incredibly strong, but it didn't take much effort. Suwon settled the person in an abandoned vegetable shed in the vegetable field at the foot of the mountain. He dug out the 9-death resurrection grass from the bamboo basket, went to the field to pick rapeseed, put them both in his arms, and wrote a line on the ground with a sickle. The word asked him to mix resurrection grass and rapeseed, which is a special medicine for reducing inflammation, stopping bleeding, and astringing wounds. She picked up the bamboo basket and prepared to go home. She paused in her steps and remembered how poor her family was. He turned around and came back, and took out a silver ingot from the pocket on the man's waist. I save your life, you pay me the consultation fee, and the money is paid in return. The clothes this man wears are very luxurious, and his family background is extraordinary. He has no shortage of money, and she gets it wisely. Suwon weighed the money and put it in his pocket. It was considered open today. She walked to Gu's house. Hey, isn't this Gu Huizi's daughter-in-law? Jiang Shi, the village chief's daughter-in-law, saw Suwan carrying a basket full of mushrooms and said in a strange tone, "You are the rich daughter of a high official, and the Gu family sent you to collect mushrooms in the mountains. What are you thinking about? Just because you don't have a dowry, I'm asking you to poison yourself with poisonous mushrooms." Suwan's eyes turned cold, and she finally remembered that Zhang was Su Mingxiu's aunt, and that the Gu family's old courtyard house was also occupied by the village chief's family. When Zhang was ignored, she couldn't help but feel angry, and deliberately provoked Suwan. "Mrs. Gu, our Mingxiu is the crown princess, and you two are sisters no matter what, you are in trouble." A plain white hand held a handful of herbs and stuffed them into her mouth. Zhang was born with a round waist and thick arms. He struggled desperately but could not get any farther. Those hands that were so slender that they could break with a single snap, subdued her to death with ease and deftness. "I don't know if the fungus is poisonous or not. If you eat a penny of this asarum, you will be suffocated to death if it becomes poisonous." A sneer appeared on Suwan's red lips, and she clapped her hands. "You wish for it?" Jiang's face turned pale, he broke out in a cold sweat, and spat out the medicine in his mouth. My mouth, tongue, hands, and legs began to feel numb. "Help, help!" Jiang was so frightened that his liver and gallbladder split apart, and he shouted in horror, "Suwan, don't leave, help me." Warm reminder, if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will handle it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 9. Suwan has an upright personality and goes her own way. Never care about other people's eyes and opinions, just live as freely and happily as you can. Anyone who finds fault makes her unhappy, she will return it tenfold or 100-fold. The matter of substitute marriage has always been a thorn in the heart of the original owner. Zhang made it disgusting to her. Suwan let Zhang know that she was not a good person. What's more, the Zhang family was the driving force behind the sale of Gu Jingyun and Gu Beizu by the original owner. The book states that Zhang deliberately revealed the news that Lu Laoliu was buying a child, and how to contact Lu Laoliu. Yuan took the initiative and based on the information given by Zhang, he approached Lu Laoliu to sell the child. Then, when the original owner fled back to the capital, Zhang and his men kidnapped the original owner and sent her back to the Gu family, who hated her to the core. Gu Jingyun, Gu Beizu, and Gu's mother were all dead at this time. Gu Huizi turned black and threw her into the brothel to experience the despair and helplessness of Gu Beizu and Gu Jingyun. The original owner wanted to marry the prince, so how could he accept the guest? She injured the guest who touched her. The guest was a bully and tortured her to death. All of this was a trap set up by Su Mingxiu, and the original owner was killed without any effort from her. Even if they checked, they couldn't find anything on her head. Suwan plucked her ears and turned a deaf ear to Jiang's plea for help. Asarum is not worth money, but money and life are connected. Jiang didn't have any money to eat, and it couldn't cost her life. Give her a lesson. In the future, if you sell her information to Su Mingxiu in exchange for benefits, you have to weigh it a little bit. When Suwan returned to Gu's house, Gu Jingyun was sitting in the yard chopping firewood. When he heard the noise, he turned around and saw her giving her a fierce look, then turned his head to chop wood. The aroma of food wafted out from the kitchen, and Suwan's stomach growled unsatisfactorily. She thought of the mushrooms in her basket and hurriedly walked to the kitchen. In the narrow and dim kitchen, Gu Beizu squatted in front of the stove to add firewood, while Gu Huizi, dressed in a green shirt, rolled up his sleeves and was cooking. Hey! When the wild vegetables are put into the pot, the light aroma comes out. Suwon was even hungrier. This man can actually cook. In the future, he will become the chief assistant, destroy the prince's mansion, and compete with the hero and heroine in a battle of wits and courage. If he hadn't died of illness, he would have been the big winner in the end. Sister-in-law, you're back. Gu Beizu's eyes were bright and he jumped up to her. My mother went to work in the town and she hasn't come back yet. Big brother is cooking tonight. Suwon glanced at the man smelling of smoke and asked in a low voice, how is his cooking skills? It's okay, Gu Beizu smiled and showed two little tiger teeth, which was very cute. It's not as delicious as my mother's. Suwon said rolled her bright black eyes, and took off the basket. I picked the mushrooms and I'll cook them later. Gu Beizu asked in surprise, sister-in-law, can you still cook? Of course, Su's party has a lot of things. Gu Beizu's eyes shone with admiration, sister-in-law, you are so awesome. Suwon. Flattery. It feels very useful to me. Suwon pinched Gu Beizu's cheek and said, just wait. Gu Beizu was stunned, and touched her cheek with her little hand. Her sister-in-law talked to her in a gentle voice, smiled at her, touched her face, and cooked for her. This is just like dreaming. Gu Beizu hopes not to wake up from this dream. Sister-in-law, let me help you. Gu Beizu ran over excitedly and cleaned the fungi together. Gu Huizi looked at Suwon with a dark look, took the dishes out of the pot and took them out of the kitchen. Suwon shouted at his back, Gu Huizi, do you have any pepper, dried chili pepper, or star anise at home? The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 10. Gu Huizi paused and looked sideways. Suwon's eyes curved into crescent moons, looking at him with a smile. She deliberately provoked him. No. Gu Huizi dropped these words indifferently. Suwon said oh, lowered her eyes and tore the fungus into thin strips. Gu Beizu was anxious. How could the elder brother win the sister-in-law's heart like this? She wanted to say yes, but she was afraid that her sister-in-law would have objections to her eldest brother. I feel uncomfortable holding back my heart. After a while, Gu Huizi put these 3 ingredients on the cutting board. Gu Beizu's eyes lit up, sister-in-law, eldest brother bought it? She gave Gu Huizi a thumbs up. Gu Huizi glanced at Gu Beizu coldly and told her to shut up. Gu Beizu was not afraid, he was as happy as a little fool. Suwon laughed out loud. She didn't know whether to tell Gu Beizu that he was a clever guy or to discredit Gu Huizi. How can it be so fast to go out and buy something? Her eyes flickered and she smiled brightly and said, thank you, please go out of your way to buy it. Gu Huizi was too lazy to pay attention to her. Your mother said that this family is for me, and you have to hand over all your money. You have money to buy ingredients, but you are hiding your private money. Suwon saw that he had a stern look on his face all day long, and couldn't help but tease him. Gu Huizi's stern face tightened even more, and his stern eyes contained a warning, telling her to calm down and leave without saying a word. Suwon was overjoyed, and crisp laughter came from the kitchen. Gu Huizi's face turned dark instantly. He pressed his sore forehead. This woman is more difficult than before. Suwon washed the mushrooms, drained the water, poured vegetable oil into a pot and heated it, put a handful of mushrooms in to lower the temperature of the oil, then poured in the red chili peppers, stirred them, and when the aroma of the chili peppers came out, added the peppercorns and star anise. After the pepper changes color, pour in all the remaining mushrooms and fry. The tempting aroma of chicken filled the kitchen. Gu Beizu stared at the pot and swallowed hard. Gu Jingyun smelled the overbearing spicy smell mixed with the aroma of chicken, worming its way into his heart like a bug. He was so greedy that he couldn't chop wood, and his stomach growled. He wiped the saliva from the corner of his mouth and couldn't help but walk to the kitchen. He saw it was Suwon was the chef and he froze. Suwon raised an eyebrow. Want to eat? Who wants to eat? I'm reminding you, don't waste gas. Gu Jingyun blushed, said harshly, and went out to continue chopping firewood. People who are duplicitous will grow noses. As soon as Suwon's words came out, Gu Jingyun stumbled with his left foot and almost fell to the ground. He turned back to glare at her angrily, pointed at his nose and said, I don't have a nose, I didn't lie. Suwon arched her eyebrows and smiled, Jingyun, you are so cute. Gu Jingyun's eyes widened, his dark face turned black and red, and he ran away quickly. Ha 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 ha. Suwon laughed. Gu Jingyun was ashamed and annoyed, this bad woman was so annoying. Suwon cooked 2 dishes, one with fried chicken and one with fried chicken. The 3 brothers and sisters of the Gu family were sitting at the table. Suwon placed a plate of light fried chicken berries in front of Gu Huizi, and fried chicken berries in front of Gu Jingyun and Gu Beizu. Surprise flashed in Gu Huizi's eyes, and he stared down at a plate of fungi that were as white and filled with fragrance. Gu Jingyun felt a little awkward, serving Suwon a bowl of rice but not looking at her. Gu Beizu took a deep breath, sister-in-law, it smells so good. Eat quickly. Suwon gave Gu Beizu and Gu Jingyun some fried chicken fur. The 2 little ones swallowed the saliva and carefully placed it in their mouths. Their expressions went blank for a moment, and their eyes sparkled. Too delicious. Gu Huizi took a bite of the fungus and found that it had a chicken-like fragrance, leaving a sweet taste between his lips and teeth. It was delicious. He held another chopstick. Is it delicious? Suwon curled her lips and looked at Gu Huizi with a smile. I open a stall to sell food. Can I make money with this craft? Warm reminder, if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will handle it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding.